I want to welcome all of you to Office Hours. This is an educational session on accounting presented by Alternative Payments, and today our guest is Next Level Now. Let's do some introductions. I'm Steve Taylor. I handle content marketing here at Alternative Payments. And Alternative Payments, for those of you that have no idea who we are and what we are a payment automation company for MSPs. So we will give you an MSP payment portal that your clients can log into, view and pay invoices, update their payment information, set up auto pay. Basically, all the things that you do for your electric bill, your clients can then do for your bills. So that's what we do. I am also joined by Sonia Pomerleau. She is the Vice President of Sales at Next Level Now. Sonia, can you take 30 seconds and tell everyone what you guys do?
Hey, Steve. Hey,
Hey.
Brandi. Yeah, thank you for having us. Next Level Now is a transformational finance company, and we provide financial services to MSPs across the country. So I know, Fractual, your virtual CFOs, and we also have teams paired with our CFOs of controllers and bookkeepers. We know all the products, we know Sleek and service leadership, and we can really spiff up an MSP quickly. Brandi, anything else about us?
And we've been in business since 2002, so it's not our first rodeo, and we've actually been in the space now we're on our 11th year working with MSPs. So we've seen all of the changes when everybody was striving to move out of T&M and get into recurring revenue and those challenges, and now some of the new things, which are just fixed fee for everything, projects and no time and just on value proposition. So it's exciting to see the changes in the industry.
Awesome.
So.
The Q&A section of Zoom is available. So if you guys have questions throughout, pop something into the Q&A. If you guys want to chat amongst yourselves using the chat feature, that's on as well. We don't limit you. So use it all, communicate, have fun, learn something. I'd like to introduce you to our mentor of the day, Brandi Bonds, managing partner at Next Level Now. Brandi is going to teach us how to fuel business growth without compromising our financial stability. Now, Brandi, that's pretty bold of you to assume we are financially stable.
Well, we can get you financially stable, Steve. How about that?
Fair,
Sometimes you just
fair.
have to make tough decisions, but you can get there. You can get there.
All right.
Thanks for
Well,
having
please
me.
take it away.
Yeah, so thanks for having me today. Sonny's going to put up a slide deck here just so one, it keeps me sharing the right amount of content, but I do want this to be interactive. So as questions come up, ask, jump in. You don't have to wait till the end. I'm here to provide value to you and give you what you guys want to hear. So please, let's do that. And Sonny, if you could go, you can skip that one. We already talked about that. And here's our agenda. We're going to talk about how to improve revenue and cash flows, reducing expenses and optimizing a cost structure. Some of these words may not make sense. Hopefully I'll be able to break it down, but we're going to optimize working capital, smart debt and finance strategies, increase profitabilities with some strategic adjustments, and then growth and cash planning. And then we'll go on to the next. All right. So when we talk about improving revenues and cash flows, there's a couple of key strategies that you can do. And I wanted to provide some graphics. I'm going to talk a lot about them, but I'm also going to show you what the impact is. So pricing strategies and optimization. One thing you want to be able to do is look at your pricing as the value proposition that you're adding to your clients and price accordingly. Okay, so for my business, if we're providing bookkeeping service versus strategic CFO services, the value propositions are very different. If you're providing a tier 1 help desk, versus engineering services, the value is very different. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the value that you're providing, putting together good performers to be able to look at that and price it appropriately. The days of saying, well, this project is going to take me 10 hours, so therefore I'm going to do the math and say 10 hours times 200 an hour to come up with what I should charge are over. You want to try and look at what the value is and be able to go from there. The next thing is faster receivables collection. There's several ways to do that, right? And we can use alternative payments to make that happen. But what you want to do is recognize, and this is what my slide here shows you. You want to be able to recognize that if you can collect your money faster, it improves your overall cash position. So sales does not equal cash. Collections equals cash. Right? So the first slide is if you have a standard net 30 terms, a lot of times you'll get that in 45, 46 days because they cut the check, they mail the check. Try and get away from checks, number one. That'll improve your turn time. Do ACHs. Try and pull the money versus asking them to send it to you. But if you change your contract terms to net 15, collect that money in 32 days, you just look at the end of that and look at the very last slide. You improve your cash flow by a couple of $100,000 just by shifting that one thing. We had one client that was collecting every about 40, well, I pulled this from their data. 46 days was their collection. They had net 30 terms. I just showed them how to change their contract language to make it be net 10 or net 15 and what that would look like at the other end. And boom, their cash position had changed. They are in an employee stock purchase program. And this year they were able to distribute $200,000 to their employees, which is awesome because of just changing their terms. That's all they did, which that to me is one of the easiest things to fix. Having recurring revenue and subscription models, we all know that. Quick question for the group, is anyone still doing T&M billing? And if you are, why? That would be my two-headed question there.
That's a good question. I would say that the answer's got to be, I'm sure not everyone, yes, but I'm sure there are people doing it. Heck, I help out every now and then a couple of companies that they've been buddies of mine for 15, 20 years now. And I'll just, hop on a computer and do some remote tech support for him because, he's 60 and he doesn't remember how to, hook his printer up or something silly like that. There's always going to be like those one-off projects for those like tiny solopreneur type companies who, let's be honest, they can't justify managed services, and you as an MSP probably can't justify having them as a client for that type of service because it would be astronomical for you to do that. But they still need help every now and then getting their computer hooked up to their printer.
Yeah, right. You look at it that way. So when we think of recurring revenue, we think of managed services. But what if we thought about it a little differently, Steve, and said, why don't we have a subscription? Think of Amazon. Amazon has a subscription service that says, use us if you want, don't use us if you don't want. But if you use us, you will get these things. It's not a lot of money. Right? Mm-hmm. So you have those one-off folks that do want to have help with their printers, maybe call you 3 times a year. Maybe you offer a $100 a month subscription that auto renews, and when they call you, you help them. Now you've added $100 every month into your coffer. You can predict it. You know it's coming. And when the call comes, the call comes. So you look at the revenue models as two different distinct things. Your recurring revenue, which is your managed services, and maybe it's your IT subscription model. That goes to a tier 1 tech. You spell out exactly what it goes to. It's not engineering. It's just help desk. So
Yep.
I challenge just a little bit. And I did see a question come up, and the question was, can you change your terms without, how do you change your terms with a customer? So yes, you can change your terms. You do need to look at your contracts, see how your contracts are written. And I would suggest 60 days prior to the contract renewal date, send a letter and let them know. The best way for you to improve your cash flow without changing your terms is do ACH and get that money in the door on your own, and you pull it. So
Yeah.
you can set up a bank form, you can work through systems, but that's what you
Alternative
want to try
payments.
and get to. What?
Alternative payments.
I
Yeah, and
already did that plug.
But then,
yeah,
but
I'm not going to sit here and plug our stuff. That's what we can do. We can help you with that. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
no, but for real.
I'm not a sales guy, so I don't feel like I have to do that. So,
Yeah.
what I do want to say though is, asterisk, ask your attorney, right? Because
Right.
obviously, when we're talking about contracts, we're talking about legal documents. So, the best answer that we, I think, collectively can give is, you can change your agreement to say whatever you want when they're signing a new agreement upon
Yes.
renewal. If
Yep.
if you want to change the terms mid agreement, it really
Yeah,
depends on what the agreement says you're allowed to
that's
change.
right.
And
Yep.
that's a question for your attorney. So I hope that answers your question, Lee.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
And repeat offenders, I mean, maybe they're not customers that you want.
Right.
Like
Right.
that's just and it bums out your employees too if they have to get after a collection. So, and like maybe Lee, it's a new thing that when you're signing on new customers this year, you're saying, that's great, sign the contract and also fill out your ACH information so I can key it into my, to my billing app because
Mhm.
like, and then if they push back, well, like maybe there's a reason they're pushing back and maybe you don't want to work with them. So I would make it part of the contract process. When you get a new client, you're always
Yeah.
getting that information.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's go over to the net. I don't think there's any questions. And most MSPs, I do know, we talked to a lot of them, and most still have T&M for exactly what you spoke of, or the projects works. People still are scared. They don't know what they're going to get into. They don't know yet how the unknown variables, right? What's going to be under the curtain when we lift it up or move it over. So T&M, there are still a lot of that on the project side and what have you. So on the next, Sonia?
And Brandi, one other question.
Yeah.
Is it you think a good practice to maybe some of those stubborn customers like we were talking about, give them a little incentive to do auto pay? Or maybe it's not worth it because you're devaluing your services.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question, right? Because I'm not a big fan of incenting customers to pay you unless you want to do an early pay discount.
Right.
However, there are some tips and tricks that you can do to say, I'm no longer accepting checks because I'm a virtual office. I can't do it any longer. Or it's really depending upon what the issue is and take it up on a case by case basis.
Yeah.
I would not, yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. John has a good thing here, incentivize not using
Yes.
Right. So yeah, if you're gonna pay by check, there's gonna be a fee for that. Like we need a processing fee.
Right.
administrative
Okay.
fees. Just, do it like the cable company and the
Right.
phone company.
They all do
Just
it.
add a bazillion different fee line items and make it
Right.
really confusing and say all of these fee line items go away if you just sign up for our ACH.
Crazy. Right. We can do that stuff too, right? Right? All right,
How,
Brandy.
how not to run your
Right.
business by
Right.
Steve Taylor.
Like
Right.
an airline.
Right. Okay, so now I just want to talk a little bit about reducing expenses and optimizing cost structures. So negotiating vendor contracts is one of the areas that I see the most underutilized way to get more margin. Okay. You work with a vendor, they're going to give you, you don't want to rock the boat, you don't want to ask for more, you need the supply. You can ask for volume discounts or longer payment terms with your vendors. You can even have a scaled discount. So if I promise to give you X, Y, and Z, and I meet those milestones, can you give me 1 point here, 1 point here, and 1 point here? So there are ways for you to negotiate with your vendors, consolidate. MSPs spend a lot of money on technologies and software and hardware. There are ways for you to get volume discounts or longer payment terms without being one of the big boys. So I do suggest doing that and trying it and find the vendors that want to work with you and make it and present it from a win-win proposition. I will only use you, Ingram, if you help me with X, Y, or Z. And there are ways you can negotiate those contracts that may not even result in tangible payment terms, but maybe improved efficiencies, right? So if they'll give you a direct integration and give you that tool, and then you agree to do all your purchases, and you'll prove it every year by sharing your vendor list and spend, that's worth something as well. So there are some creative ways that you can negotiate with your vendors in order to help you. And maybe it's when you bring on a new customer, you say, for every customer I bring on, I'm going to promote these services and these projects. When I do these projects, can you please give me 90-day terms, because I need to get them up and running with all of their projects, and then I'll pay you on the other side. I've seen it done. It can be done. So I would really explore that through, and this is all through growing, right? So that's when you want to try that. Cutting non-essential expenses is the next one. And one of them is the biggest wasted spend that I see in MSP ITs is underutilized subscriptions and software. Okay. And there are tools out there that will track your utilization, your adoption, and how much you're spending on them across all your systems and track it. So there's a couple of systems. One is G2 Track and one is Xylo that I've seen. So you can see how many times as a business owner said, oh, this software looks really cool. I'm going to get it, and all of my people are going to use it, and they're going to love it, and it's going to make our life so easy. And then you find out 1 or 2% of your workforce actually uses it. You want to keep track of that, know who's using what, know what subscriptions you have, and you can pass those savings on to your customers as well by tracking that for them. And that can be another value add service that you can charge a fixed fee for. So that can have a dual-sided, cut expenses on your side, help your customers cut expenses, and go from there. You can freeze non-critical hiring or outsource, right? You can outsource instead of hiring a full-time marketing person. Maybe you find someone that you only need 5 hours a week that is laser focused, has been doing it for a long time, will cut your costs and can provide you what you need.
And one
Go
idea
ahead.
that I have that you could also consider, and now we're going to get into philosophical stuff, as well
Yeah.
as money saving stuff, you could look into a platform. So something like the 20 or Text Together. Now, in order to do that, what you really need to do is, you have to have a philosophical conversation with yourself of, do I really want to use XYZ product? They're going to get me a fantastic price because of their crazy volume, but I'm stuck using these products, and I have to almost like change the way I'm doing service. But there's a reason that they've got, 100,000 or however many endpoints under their care. And
Yeah.
it's because their way works. So that is an option too.
Yeah, absolutely. And doing that makes it easier and more efficient as well. And we're going to talk a lot about that. Aligning expenses with revenue growth. And this is probably the most difficult one on all of this, right? Because if you're a growing business, you need to add expenses and resources to support the growth. But you need to take the time to understand what that line is. How many expenses do you need to incur, and then to add growth to? So a lot of people will hire staff in advance, planning for growth. Well, how many months are those staff going to sit underutilized until the growth comes? When should you hire? Should you have the contract sale, extend out the start date, and then hire? And running that data and making sure that you know what your sweet spot is when you can add that growth on the expense side that matches the revenue is a skill. It's difficult, but you want to make sure you're doing it. And the easiest way is to line it up with your recurring revenue, not your project work.
Mm.
Okay. So that is the key, because that's your predictable income. Unless you have predictable project work that has you out, but you've already sold it then. So now you can incur the expenses. Another is really optimizing your payroll and workforce costs. That's just making sure your team is utilized. Get creative with some of your compensation. I know for Sleek has a ton of information out there, part of service leadership, for our compensation for different roles. We've developed a ton of different models for that. You offer a base salary with fee for performance and outcomes, so that people can make more money by driving the business the way that you want it. There is some mixed opinions out there on that it may drive the wrong behaviors in folks, but there are ways, if you are a growing organization, to profit share with your team, to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to pay you X, we're growing, when we meet Y, you're going to get Z. But getting creative with it. And if you are in a period of growth, really managing, if you have techs that are hourly and not salary, manage overtime, right? That's one of the fastest ways that we see money go away, because we don't manage overtime. You'll have the people that are super hungry, but it costs you more to provide the service, which eats your margin. And then the last is reduce your customer acquisition costs. I did put in an example there. I'm not going to walk through the calculation. You guys can screen grab it if you'd like. But I wanted you to understand that in an MSP, for customer acquisition costs and keeping them with you, if you can reduce that and have a healthy ratio of how long do you keep a client, what are the costs that you have to get them, making sure that you're able to keep that number low and not turn over your customers too fast, or keep your costs high to acquire those customers, will help you improve cash flow and your margins, all in all. Okay. Next, Sonia. All right, optimizing working capital. So payables, there's two metrics. So we talked about the receivable side, and we're going to talk a little bit more here. Two metrics to track. And a lot of people think you cannot pay your payables late. Well, you're payable to your customers, and they pay you on average 5 to 15 days late. That's the industry standard unless you're pulling the money. So if you can negotiate payables with your, if you can negotiate with your vendors longer terms to cover that, you will be in better shape. Or, and always try for the 60, right? Or extend when you pay them. If the terms are net 30, pay them in 40. And then they're paid within the 45. That is how the planning works. So tracking days of payable and days of receivable, you want to make sure your receivable days are always coming in faster than your payable days are going out. So just to be clear, if you're receiving in 46 days, you want to pay in 47. Otherwise, you're not maximizing your cash flow. You're actually bringing it the other way. The
That
other
makes perfect
thing,
sense.
Isn't
right?
that what their clients, isn't that what your clients are doing?
Exactly, exactly.
We're both
And
playing the game.
yeah, and you can have these conversations. Now, vendors, there are vendors out there that will say, no, our terms are 15. And if all your vendors are giving you that pressure, then you have pressure to change your receivable terms.
Yeah.
Or you're making the decision to play bank for your customers and leverage your capital on their behalf.
Yep.
Then that it goes the same way. But there are ways you can get some upfront payments, with most MSPs do. You get a big project in, 50% upfront, pay for the hardware upfront. You know, you want to be able to do that. Yep, most of our fulfilled, that is correct. And that, Claudette, that is the game you need to play. But I will tell you, if you have candid, honest conversations, honest, not made up, not fictitious, not trying to sneak something through, but if you have an honest conversation with your vendor that says, listen, I'm coming into a heavy project time. I'll show you my project backlog. This is what I have going on. Can you ship me this product? I will complete these things. When it is completed, I will pay you. It's going to be an extended time of 45 days for these things. Will you work with me? I don't want to lose this work. They will work with you, but you have to be honest and transparent about it. They're in the same business you are. They're interested in servicing customers for profit, right? That's why we do this. Okay. The other thing you want to do, we already talked about, I'm not going to go really heavy into the improved AR management because it is part of your working capital, but really automate as much as you can, guys. Use the tools out there, one we won't name, but also use your QuickBooks or set up reminders and have it all done automated. I like a good AR process that goes like this. On the day before a bill is due, day before, not after, day before, send out an automated email that says, hi, just wanted to make sure you received this invoice and let me know if you have any questions. Looking forward to receiving our payment on this date. You can do it 5 days before, doesn't matter. 15th of the month, send out statements to every customer. If you do your billing on the 1st, 15th, send out automated statements to every customer. Here's a statement of your account. Please let me know if you didn't get any of these invoices. We love working with you. Thanks so much. It's not give me my money. It's, here, did we miss anything? Did you miss anything? Then 15 days, 10 to 15 days after the invoice was due, another automated follow-up. We've noticed that this bill has not been paid. Can you please provide payment date, or if you have questions, please give me a call. Okay, you will dramatically improve your AR collections fast because nobody wants to be emailed or called so many times. Right? And it works.
So we shouldn't send them a reminder every 3 days. Where's my money?
Yeah, not every
You're,
3 days.
you're
No,
saying less is more.
less is more. But if you past due fees, that's a good one too. If you have chronic people and it's in your contract, I'm going to talk about if it is in your contract that you can charge a past due fee and you have seen a consistent past due, have a conversation, a phone call, not an email first on the past due fees that say, I'm taking a lot of heat from my CFO, even if you don't have one, say it. My business owner, pick somebody. I would not have the owner call on this conversation, whoever manages the customer relationship. You have that conversation and you say, you know, we have not done this 1.5% past due fee at all for you. I've gone to bat for you. I'm taking a lot of heat. What can we do to get our bills paid on time? Here's what other customers do. Would you be willing to do that? It's just a conversation. And 9 out of 10 times, they'll stop or they'll say, just give us the 1.5% because they're managing their cash flow. Not everybody is going to pay you on time to avoid a 1.5% fee if they're managing their cash flow. Yeah, and if it's chronic, no pay, no service. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yep. And if they don't get on the phone, yeah, like why are you going to return their call to fix something if they won't pay a bill?
Exactly.
Right. It's probably a customer that needs to go.
Inventory management. This is one of the biggest ways people lose money. Inventory equals cash. The things that you want to keep in stock are key project items that you need to complete projects faster. Okay, if you have a long lead time item that you know you need for every project, okay, you want to have them so you can turn projects faster. That's one of the biggest delays I see in projects is the long lead time items that they can't get for 6 months. Projects sit there wide open. You're leaving money with the customers and you're leaving opportunity for them to say, you know what, we don't want that anymore. It's been too long. But try and buy your inventory in real time. That's part of your vendor negotiation as well. You can say, hey, I'm going to commit to buying 100 laptops this year. Can you keep them? And when I need them, how fast can you ship them to me? Because that's the key is your inventory is for you to sell, not for you to have in a shelf. So really managing and understanding what's in your inventory is going to be the key to improving cash flow. And if you have slow moving stock, get rid of it as fast as you can, even if it's discounting it, because it's making you nothing sitting on your shelf. And when you don't move it for a discount and it sits there and becomes obsolete, then you're guaranteed to get zero. And I will say that that was one of the downfalls of BlackBerry. That's what killed BlackBerry. They kept their inventory and did not turn it at a discount. And then when they did try to discount it, it was no longer of value. And then
and it was a BlackBerry, so
it was
There's that.
there's that too. But they
It
did
was hot.
they had too much inventory. If you read up, and that's because it's cash, it's sunk cash.
I gotta say, I really loved my BlackBerry phones,
Me
up
too.
until the iPhone came out.
The crackberry was my favorite. I loved it, but
The
it
cube
didn't
Renee.
do as much. I agree.
I like the cube.
And then you can get vendors that will offer you creative financing if it's for large projects is the only way I would do this option. Okay, guys, don't do it for small things, only large. Yeah, they were bulletproof back in the day. I agree, Alex. But you can leverage vendor financing. There are vendors. Dell has some unique programs. If you are a Dell provider or an HP, talk to them. Say if you're bidding on big projects, because if you sell their products, they will give you money back. I had one MSP that did $100,000 project, and they ended up getting $32,000 back just for putting in all of the products of HP.
Oh.
So definitely get to know your vendors, talk to them about what programs are offers that they have. How can you benefit? That goes back to the whole vendor. Really know your vendors as well as you know your customers. Next, Sonia. All right, smart debt. Not everybody thinks debt is smart, but it can be. Using all your cash to pay for things is not always smart, guys. Cash in hand is worth more than cash in the future. Remember that, it's a fact. So you want to be able to leverage low-cost debt for growth. That can be SBA loans, that can be solid lines of credit. Do not wait for a line of credit when you need it. Get it when you don't. Trust me, you won't be able to get it otherwise. You also can get equipment or CapEx lines of credit. Okay, so if you know that you're going to be growing your business and you're going to need to take on some capital expenditures, moving to a new office, pick it, whole bunch of laptops because you're adding people, you can get equipment lines of credit or CapEx lines of credit. And then you want to make sure not ever to sign over those checks that are 19% interest. Please don't do that ever. Yeah, Lee, we're going to talk about that in one moment here. Factoring versus AR financing. I did put a chart here so you know who owns what and what does it mean. But if you have trouble with some of your AR, you can finance it or factor it. So you could sell that AR for a discount. So they will buy your AR from you and they can go over as well. So factoring or AR financing, you can do. Now, if you're having a hard time, your margins aren't great, or you just don't want to do collections, I do not recommend doing factoring because you give away points. So if you're already having tough margins and you need to wait for your funds sometimes, it doesn't always come as fast as you'd hope. Where financing, you get it, it's fast, it takes 1 to 3 days, you still own it. When you factor, your debt now goes through a third party, your collections, sorry, not your debt. And then another thing is you can offer client financing, guys. You can do that through a third party, or you can do it through yourself. If you've had the opportunity and the good fortune of building up some capital, you can offer financing and get the interest, the premium interest for yourself instead of through that third party. I have suggested it for companies that have money and had wanted to diversify their revenue stream. And if they had a couple $100,000 sitting in their bank account, they just sitting in their savings, and they said, you know what, we really want to do this project. It will cost them $100,000. We told them 20% down, and then we'd finance it for 10%. Now you've just added that to your margin. You just have to wait for the cash to come back. So that's a way that you can fund growth. And then government grants or tax incentives, depending on your state, depending on where you are, there are training tax credits you can get or incentives. There's other ways to get your team up to speed, and the government will give you money for it. Look into that, and that's ways that if you have a operational issue with underutilized, underskilled staff, training grants are crazy right now. So happy to share website links if anybody wants them. Just message, and Sonia and I will get that to you.
Yeah, Massachusetts has a wonderful one that's 100% payback on sales training.
Yep.
For companies. We've fully utilized those. They're amazing.
Yep.
All right. And then Lee had a question. Do you have any recommendations to help with cash recovery rather than going to attorneys?
Well, cash recovery, you can sell it, you can sell your AR.
Right.
You can sell it to a collection agency or work through a collection agency. It's hard. I mean, you give up a lot when you do that. You give up anywhere from 20 to 60%. If it's a lot of money, I would go to an attorney if you have one, and usually they'll just write a letter and it can scare them. You can go to small claims court as well on your own. That does not require an attorney, and you can get the money that way. I have been successful in that. Depends on how much it is. And the key is, how much do you want it to derail your business? That's what you got to think of. And that would be a question, Lee. I'm happy to consult with you on that. If you shoot me an email after, or Sonia, if you can write a note. That's more of a case by case than a general blanket.
For sure. Okay, great.
Okay, next one. All right, increase profitability and strategic adjustments. I want to highlight here the keyword of adjustment. Okay, we all go through our businesses and we set plans, we set goals. This is what we want to do. Here's what we want to accomplish. You should be adjusting or pivoting almost daily in one way or another, right? You set your agenda for the day. I know my schedule, I have to pivot every single day because something comes up. What you want to be able to do is look at your products or services that you're providing. When you're getting sales calls in, is that what people are asking for, right? What are people asking you for? Are they asking for what you're selling, or should you be looking at other products or services that you should provide? Are your projects and services high margin or high support costs, or low margin, low support costs? Where should you focus your time? My next slide is going to show you one way that I look at that I talked about in the last one that we did, but it solves a lot of this problem. The other is increasing operational efficiencies. I did put up 3 KPIs there and how you can use them, how they can help you on your operation, and how they affect your cash flow. Again, screen grab them. Understanding how to automate your processes and reduce manual labor costs, key. But understand key KPIs so that you can track and correct issues when they come up is key, right? And that's how you gain your efficiency. And implement, and make sure you have good training and cross-training. That's how you'll be able to do it as well. But efficiency isn't always people. Sometimes it's your collection process, which we just spoke about. How are you doing that? Could be your AP process and how you're paying your bills. It could be your process around how are you making decisions on what to pay people. Do you have a good process around that, or onboarding new customers or onboarding new staff? So that's what you want to be able to look at. And then really adjust your pricing to based on your expertise, your demand, your costs, and your competition. Okay, so if you know an area better than anyone else, Can you narrow down, focus in on just that and get a premium? Right? If you can, do it. It will simplify your life. It'll increase your operational efficiency. And then it gives you the area to really be an expert and then branch out as you can. Most of us go into business with the big, wide net, right? You go in when you start and you'll take anything and everything that comes in your path to grow, to pay the bills, right? When you first start, you're just trying to pay the freaking bills. You cast that net, you catch it all, you work with it. As you start to grow and mature as a business or as a business leader, right? Your business may not always be as mature as you have become. Now, what are you really good at? How can you narrow down? What if someone doesn't want you in that space? They want to pull you into an area that you may not be really great at, or your people may not be able to execute. Do you take it? Do you not? You can be more profitable when you narrow your focus. So I challenge people to look at things like that and see what's happening on the demands, right? And if your cost structure is too high, meaning your people are charging you too much, figure out a different way to do it. Or if you can't raise your price and your costs are too high, how can you make it cheaper? And those are the challenges on that one. In the next slide, I'm just going to talk about a little bit here on understanding your resources. So the first on the left is your bands of customers to identify which type of customer. You can band it by revenue. You can band it by customer type. You can band it by geographic. Pick your way. Wherever you're more profitable is where you want to focus, and wherever you're least profitable is where you want to focus the least, right? You want to be profitable, not, and then understanding the resources by band to service those customers is where you're going to be able to really dial in and understand what's going on. Sorry, my phone is ringing if you guys hear it, and I can't shut it off.
I don't hear it.
Fine.
Perfect. All right. Next slide, and with the last one.
Great.
Strategic growth and cash reserves planning. So build a cash reserves buffer. One of the biggest questions I get asked is, how much cash should I have as a reserve? Right? And that really depends on the business and what do you need the cash for. The average is 3 to 6 months of operating expenses. I like to look at it in terms of 1 to 3 months of payroll and 1 to 3 months in operating expenses or fixed costs, right? Your below the line costs. So working on building that buffer is going to help you for the rainy day or when you are trying to grow. So you can do some of these initiatives. You have a customer that has an amazing project that you want to bring on, but they don't have the money. You can lend it to them and charge the interest, or you don't have to worry about if you're going to make payroll. So working on building a cash reserve, even if it's just $10,000 a year, is huge. Next is improve your forecasting and budgeting. And I put this little slide because those are metrics. All forecasts tie back to a metric to tell you what your cash flow is going to look like. If you can improve your forecasting and budgeting within 5%, all the time. So your revenue should be within 5%, your expenses within 5%, and your EBITDA or net operating income should be within 5% of your model. You get that laser focused. You have the ability to look out in the future and be able to predict what your cash is going to be. And you can do what if scenario planning, which is what this does, to make business decisions. And when you are able to do that, you're able to really grow. And that's when the banks will give you the low cost lending, will give you, really, they'll give you money. You'll be able to get it. And if you're trying to acquire somebody and you want to go in and say, okay, if we do this, this is what it's going to cost. If we want to add these customers and we add them in, this is what it's going to do to my structure. In this chart here, you can see revenue growth for the sake of revenue growth is not always good. In the aggressive growth case, you have to be prepared to lose cash, right? So if you're prepared to lose cash through an aggressive growth of 20% revenue, that's great. Do it, but it may not be the best thing for your business or your pocketbook. So you really want to do these scenarios to run through and see what it's going to look like. And then the last is explore alternate revenue streams. You can do partnerships, licensing, white labeling. Is there a service that you always outsource or buy from someone else in order to get your work done for your clients? If there is, can you expand it? Could you do it yourself? Is there a way you could do that? If you're always going to the same third-party vendor to help you get work done, is there a way you can share the revenue? And that's one thing you want to be thinking about or having in your mind as you're growing. And that's it. Are there any questions?
Wow.
It's a lot of
So
data.
much. So
Woo!
much. I love that growth for the sake of growth is not always a good thing.
No,
It's just, it's a bigger is not always better. And especially if it's a lifestyle business.
no, no,
Yeah.
bigger isn't always better. And it is almost always more expensive,
Right.
right? You want to be controlled and strategic in your growth, right? Strategic. And in planning, but sometimes, if you are trying to meet sometimes people put out there, I have a 3-year goal. This is what I want to get. And in order for me to get that, I have to do the aggressive growth now, which means I'm going to lose money now. But in 3 years through my modeling, I can see if I do these things now in 3 years, I'm going to be in good shape. And I've made the decision to do that. But you want to make sure you have your line of credit in place. So that cash reserve buffer means you can add a line of credit unused as that cash reserve buffer. It doesn't always mean you have to have cash in the bank.
Yeah. And we do offer CFO services. It's at the core of our business. So absolutely. And yes, we will send the recording of this. And then Steve, I'm going to give this to you as a PDF. The PowerPoint, everyone, you'll get
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys, if anyone has questions, and I know we do have your information, Lee, so Sonia will make sure that we get you what you need. And yes, I see. Thanks for the help. Do you offer CFO services? That is what we provide. We are a CFO firm that comes specifically to the IT MSP community.
Perfect. Gary will make sure that Sonia reaches out to you as well on the training grants. I have one last poll up right now. Some of you have already answered it. It's just a simple, are you interested in learning more about alternative payments? Are you interested in learning more about Next Level Now? If you say no, we will honor that. So if you could answer that poll, just those 2 questions, that would be awesome. And then while everyone's doing that, do you guys have any other questions? We've got a couple minutes left. And Brandi is here. Pick her brain, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's free
Well,
of charge.
when's a good time to build the cash reserve? Like, I'm thinking of it personally too. I'm like, oh, if I have an extra $1,000 in my checking account, really, I should just move it over. Like, oh,
There's never a bad time to start building a cash reserve. And even if you do it a little at a time. So the good plans, like if you have a profit sharing plan or a profit plan, if you write up, what I do with clients is I'll write up a policy, right? A policy sounds so formal. What is it?
Mhm.
It's a document or a contract with yourself that says, this is what I want to do. And in that, we build in whatever the profit is, what should our cash balance be? And then we say, what do we want to put in our rainy day fund? And we make it 20%. And it could be 20% of $100,000, or it could be 20% of $1 million. And that gets tucked away into the rainy day fund. And at least then you're planning, right? And that's what the goal is, but there's never a bad time to do that. Save 50, spend 50. I don't know any businesses that can do that.
I knew a business that they would do 33% to the business, 33% to the sales rep, and then 33% to the, war chest, if you will.
Yeah.
So they were doing a really good job of they literally were paying a third of revenue out as like commission.
Right.
And then a third of it was used for operating expenses and payroll, and then everything else got put into the rainy day fund. And I'm sure the rainy day fund got used, but when you think about it like that, like we don't just have all this money laying around
No.
that we can go out and buy new computers and upgrade our cubicles and standing desks for everyone. When you stop all the consumerism in your business, it becomes real easy. And then you can even start to make some more strategic decisions. Like I've got a buddy who he rented office space for years, and he just bought a building. And it's in San Luis Obispo area of California. So I can only imagine how many millions of dollars this building cost, because it's an expensive area of California. But that was an intelligent business decision, because he was spending thousands of dollars a month on rent, and his mortgage is actually going to be a little less.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now his business has property.
Which
Right.
is fantastic. And that's a way to, and when you do that, it doesn't cost cash,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
You only need 20%, and then you can get that property.
Right.
And yes, and now you have an asset as well in another organization.
And that was going to be my next question: is does it make sense for that business to be, I'm sorry, for that building to be like a separate business?
Yep, 100%. It protects it. So you have the building in one. Usually it's a real estate holding company. Then you have your regular business. Always parse them separately. Yep.
Very good.
Awesome.
All right. Well, hey, thank you so much, Brandi. And I really hope you get to enjoy Belize while you're there. Sonia,
Going
thank
now.
you. I will send out the recording tomorrow, everyone. So look for that email. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, great week. And next week, we're going to have Tim Conkle from the 20, and we're going to talk about integrating, what it looks like to integrate newly acquired MSPs. So I really hope to see you there. Take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.